Recently, I got called a groomer for speaking against Moms for Liberty. It isn't the first time and it will not be the last. Let's talk about it. Hi, my name's Rachel, and today we're talking about Moms for Liberty, books, and school libraries. I am a book reviewer and influencer, so often I get sent books by publishers and authors, and I also just buy books to support authors. I had accumulated a stack of brand new books that I either bought or were sent to me, and you can see that full stack here. I decided I want to get these books into the hands of some of the libraries in my school district that don't have as many books as other schools in the district. There's a few high schools that have like such a vast catalog of books, like Armwood High School, Plant High School, Newsom High School here in Hillsborough County, Florida. I live in Tampa. There is a district catalog website where you can look up every single book and see if the school district has copies and how many copies and where they are shelved. So I noticed that there were a few high schools that when I would look up a book, consistently they would not have the same books shelved as other high schools had. One high school that's not far, it's just 15 minutes like south of me, is Robinson High School. There's also a middle school that I worked with to get some brand new books to them as well. So I got these books together, and before going to drop them off, I filmed and posted this video.
Yeah. You know what? Hell yeah. Yeah.
And often when I talk about Moms for Liberty on YouTube shorts, I get comments from people who defend them. And a comment that I got was, "So you admit to grooming, wild take." And a second one I got was, all the books on their list have graphic sexual content. Your books aren't on their list. And even if they were, then you'd be gross by my reckoning. It's clear to me now that people are even stupider than I thought that they were. If you hear Moms for Liberty doesn't like this book, and your only thought, because you don't know Moms for Liberty, if your only thought is, wow, that must have graphic sexual content, then you have absolutely no idea what Moms for Liberty has done and has been doing, especially in my home state of Florida, and what they're doing across the country. So let me explain basic stuff to idiots again. First and foremost, everything that I donated in that stack is already approved by my county. Moms for Liberty wants to run school districts, but as of now, they do not run my district, which is to say they have not successfully campaigned to get enough candidates on my school board who will vote the way that Moms for Liberty would like. That has happened in Brevard County, Florida. It has not happened here. Hopefully it doesn't happen here, because I would hate to have my county, Hillsborough County, imitate what Brevard County, Florida just did a couple months ago, where they banned a manga because one of their school board members, who's backed by Moms for Liberty, does not like that you read manga backwards.
I'm not going to be voting to keep this one there, and I'm just going to tell you why. Again, I've read every one of these books alongside this book committee. This book it focuses on nothing other than a relationship. It's inappropriate. You start the book, you read it backwards, you read it. I mean, it literally, when you start reading a book, which we've been teaching our kids from day one, you start at the beginning and you read from left to right, bottom to top. Not that book, you don't. And so it's just, to me, I'm going, no, this is not the highest and best book that we can offer our kids. And this is volume 1, so I'm not sure where this goes, because the entire book is focused on a romantic relationship. So I'm like, if this is volume 1, where does the next one go? So,
which, by the way, is just racist. She was just being racist. Her saying that it's not quality because you read it backwards and because it's all about a relationship is so funny, because she did not and will not make this same case for Pride and Prejudice being in the libraries. It's all about a relationship. Therefore, we should ban it. It's not good enough for our schools. Consistently, they reveal themselves to have double standards, and those double standards are only in play because they do not want to admit that the reason that they are banning certain books is because they are homophobic and racist, which was the case for why they banned this manga in Brevard County, Florida. Moms for Liberty shows up at school board meetings, including my own, saying, "Not on my dime," about books whose content they don't like, because public school libraries are taxpayer funded. So they believe that because they gave, I don't know, maybe 8 cents in taxes to a public school library per book, maybe maximum, I don't know. It's not like they can tell me how it works. They think that they should get a say in whether or not each and every book is on shelves. So I make fun of this by saying, oh, if it's just about the money, then I will write you a check. But now my joke has expanded to saying, don't worry, if it's about the money, then I will just supply it on my own dime. They're not on your dimes now. They're on mine. I'm getting Hillsborough County School District approved books into high schools like Robinson, who consistently does not have the same selection of books as, say, Brandon High School. None of these books are banned from any of the particular schools that I have donated them to either. And they would be banned by the district, who currently is not Moms for Liberty run. I just wanted to change the fact that students who were not in certain high schools did not have access to the same books. Access should be equal. But again, I can't just approve of and decide which books are going to be on shelves. I had to make sure that they were already already approved. And I did so by going to the county's website and looking up the virtual library catalog, where you can see each book, again, how many copies, which schools they're in. And consistently, Robinson had no copies of books that other high schools did. Same thing I did for the middle grade books. I made sure to check to ensure that these are already district approved. And I know they're district approved because they're already on shelves at other schools. Now, when I say that Moms for Liberty would not want to buy these, it is because I am extremely familiar with Moms for Liberty. They are not a group dedicated to just removing graphic sexual content, which they define differently than I do. They and their affiliates are an extremist group of mostly Christian nationalists who aim to make public education duplicates of private evangelical fundamentalist schools. I have dealt with Moms for Liberty not only at my children's public school district, them showing up and speaking over me, some of them not having any kids in the district, but I also went to go support friends at a school board meeting in Hernando County, which you can look this up on the news. This was about the fact that Shannon Rodriguez was very upset because this PG movie Strange World was shown in her child's classroom, and Shannon Rodriguez just so happens to also be on the school board. She was so upset because she's so homophobic that she demanded that the teacher answer for the crime of showing a PG-rated movie where two boys hold hands at the end for 2 seconds. But she's really on a campaign, as she admitted in this meeting, against DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which somehow the right has decided that all of those things are bad. It's bad to include other people, which begs the question, how long until they take wheelchair accessible entrances away from buildings, since they hate inclusion so much? While I was standing in line for this meeting, a grown-ass man who is named Brian Paris, who was also at my children's school board meeting, saying this:
we live in a city where we're number one in strip clubs. And so it's easy to manipulate the children. China said they'd take over our country without firing one bullet, with indoctrination and Marxism.
Yes, that guy also showed up at this meeting, and wouldn't you know it, he was directly in front of me in line. Just for proof, here is the Hernando County School Board meeting I'm talking about, and I will zoom in on where Brian Paris is.
I've been sitting here tonight, and I'm appalled by how many gay people are here.
Yeah.
And I was standing next to 2 teenage femmes. One of them was non-binary, so I'm not going to call them teenage girls, but they were both femme. One of them made a comment about his feet to me, which he overheard. He was wearing blue flip-flops. And I just want to remind you that teenagers do this, but also he's not a parent of any child at this school, so him being there in the first place was inappropriate. But he decided to get upset with this teenager and start verbally fighting with them, so I had to step in and say, "This is a minor, sir. You cannot yell at a minor." Now, the old-ass man, who I assume also does not have any kids in the district, standing next to him, kept quiet for this. Meanwhile, Moms for Liberty, who I am not exaggerating, was standing directly behind me. All of them showed up in their black t-shirts, blue t-shirts with Moms for Liberty all over them, stood by and said nothing while this grown-ass man yelled at a minor who was at their own school board meeting. But that's not enough, because after Brian Paris left, his friend, who was standing next to him, decided to touch other people's property because we weren't allowed to take any signs inside. So there was a sign that said something to the effect of "y'all means all," and it had a rainbow on it, and he decided to mess with it because somebody had left it outside and they weren't there to defend their own property, so the teenagers I was with decided to defend them, to which I had to also defend the property. And what happened? This man yelled in my face, yelled in minors' faces, and I had to step in between him and 2 minors. Nobody, and I mean not a single other fucking person, stepped in to help us, including Moms for Liberty behind me. No, in fact, the police showed up and they all defended this grown-ass man for yelling in the faces of minors, and I got told that if I fucked up again, me, defending children, that I would be asked to leave. That's the Moms for Liberty I know, right up close and personal. They watched as children got yelled at by a grown man while he was touching other people's property, and I had to say something. So, yeah, I don't fucking buy it that it's just about graphic sexual content in books, because I have seen what Moms for Liberty does when children are being harassed by a grown-ass man right in front of my fucking face. Okay? And I've also seen the police defend it. And this is why I always carry a camera on me whenever I go to school board meetings now, because of that incident right fucking there. Never again will I allow minors to be harassed in front of me without having all of the footage with which to show to police that grown-ass men and Moms for Liberty do not defend children, even when they have every fucking opportunity to. And I alone had to do it by my fucking self. If I wasn't radicalized before, that incident radicalized me. And this is why I do not want them anywhere near my children, anywhere near my school board, and certainly not picking which books should be on shelves for public school students like my children. So let me explain some of these books I've donated and explain to you why I know that Moms for Liberty would say, not on my dime, I don't want that in schools. Spoiler alert, it's because them and their affiliates have said it about similar books before. And what this really goes back to is that Moms for Liberty is a group of racist, xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic pieces of shit that only want you reading Tuttle Twins and Boxcar Children, which, by the way, we also have on Hillsborough County Public Schools shelves, and I'm not opting to take those away. They can have them. So let's talk about the books. Wings of Ebony by J.L. In one part, the main character, who is black, says, going back to Gizon is like a brother in baggy clothes walking into a police station. I'm trying to keep us alive, which references how often people are stereotyped by police and fear police, and in particular, black folks are stereotyped and are subjected to quite a lot of violence at the hands of police. You can recall the many cases in which this has happened. There is plenty of data supporting that this is a fact. And this has happened not just to adults, but to children. Don't forget that Tamir Rice was 12 when he was murdered by police for playing at a park holding a toy gun. But this line that I just read to you from Wings of Ebony would be unacceptable to Bruce Friedman, the resident county book banner of Clay County, Florida, who runs Florida No Left Turn in Education, who works arm in arm with Moms for Liberty, and has successfully made it so that Clay County, Florida has not bought any new books for their public school students in the library in years. He has challenged 1,000 books. That is not hyperbole. That is literally. If you would like to see all of this, you can go to the link down below where Florida Freedom to Read Project has compiled as many of the challenges and bans as possible into a document. Bruce Friedman has a hilarious interview with The Daily Show where he admits that he doesn't even send his children into the public school library anymore anyways and wants to parent your kids.
Okay, and do you have kids in the school system?
Yes.
You do?
He's not allowed in the public school library, so it doesn't matter.
Hold on. Your son doesn't use the library at school.
That is correct. It's polluted.
So you're doing all of this work for all the other kids.
Correct.
You can go watch that below too. Here's his challenge form for Legendborn. So this form right here is why I know that he would also try to challenge Wings of Ebony by J.L. He complains about Legendborn by Tracy Dion, saying that the main character, a black girl named Bree, being afraid of a cop is black victimhood and therefore critical race theory, and he deems this inappropriate for children. You can pause to read the world's most uneducated book report if you want, but you get the gist. Bruce would try to get Wings of Ebony banned, absolutely. Now, I also donated 2 copies of Spin of Fate by A.A. Vora. There are several directions I could go with why I think that this will be challenged and banned at some point, but this book contains critiques of organized religion and a young girl who is not white, who is differing in religious belief in a way from her mother and from society. For that reason alone, books have been challenged. An example is that in Huntersville, North Carolina, John and Robin Coble, 2 parents at the Lake Norman Public Charter School, challenged The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, a story of a young woman who is not white, coming of age in Harlem and struggling with her relationship with her mother and her mother's religious beliefs. And those parents were challenging it, complaining that the novel is overtly anti-Christian and that the school's use of the novel violates constitutional safeguards against government endorsement of religion. That's right. Apparently, if a young girl in a book has criticisms of religion, then the school supplying that is anti-Christian and the government infringing on religious belief. Right. The book was on a class reading list, but they did have the opportunity to select a different title for their child and decided instead to parent everyone else's kids, just like Bruce Friedman, by demanding its removal on the basis of it being anti-Christian. Spin of Fate in the same situation could likely receive the same treatment. Then the Coles would say, not on our dime. Another donation I made was Something More by Jackie Kalilia. This is a young adult contemporary that has like a romance in it. It's about a young girl who is Palestinian Canadian and she is autistic. There is a quote from the book that says, "It bothers me more when they think I'm different just because my skin tone is a little darker and my last name is harder to pronounce. People are afraid of what they don't understand and they don't understand me. My parents are from Palestine. It's got a sad and pretty heavy history. When their parents were born, it was its own state. Now Palestinians live under military occupation in what is recognized by the rest of the world as Israel." Another character asks, "It's a land dispute, right?" The main character says, "Yes, but it's become much more than that. The media helps perpetuate the false and quite frankly dangerous narrative that all Palestinians are suicide bombers and terrorists. We're not. What the media doesn't talk about is the extreme power imbalance. So for this one, it actually talks about a political issue, the displacement and the genocide of the Palestinian people and the treatment that they face. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that my resident county book banner, Julie Gebhards, would complain about this book and want this removed if she knew it was on shelves in Hillsborough County, which eventually she's going to find out. Because I've watched her complain about books for less. She complained about this children's picture book because it's about Pablo Neruda, a Chilean poet, a very famous poet who is one of the most famous poets of all time. And she says that this is inappropriate for the supplemental reading list because Pablo Neruda was a communist, despite the fact that it doesn't even reference him being a communist. Within the pages of this children's picture book, she thinks that depicting people who have different ideas than her mean that books about them should not be on shelves.
He was a communist. Pablo Neruda, a poet of the people. This looks like a protest. These are some hungry, sad people. Pablo hid in the homes of friends and then escaped on horse over the mountains of Chile, whatever. Wow, this is what we're celebrating in Hillsborough County Schools, and also next video about Frida Kahlo.
So of course she's going to say that about something like Something More. There's also the time that she complained about Front Desk by Kelly Yang. In Something More, the main character is talking about the poor treatment that her people group face. This also discusses that. This discusses the anti-Asian sentiment that some of her own classmates inflict upon Mia Tang, the protagonist in this book Front Desk, which is for middle grade readers. And this is based on the author's own experiences, as is Something More. People talking about their own experiences with racism and mistreatment based on their ethnicity is something that my resident county book banner thinks is inappropriate for children and worth it being challenged and banned.
This is on the supplemental reading list for all of Hillsborough County Schools for 5th graders. Oh boy, this got my heart rate going. You should see these rich people. They have so much money, but they're so mean to us. Just because we're poorer than them, I finished her sentence. Lupe looked at the floor. And because we're brown, she said quietly. And so the conclusion of that conversation, I think Lupe says to Mia, will never be as successful as him, the rich boy. Besides that being a totally hopeless message, it's just not American in any way, because look around you at all the successful people in every aspect of life in America. That's the beauty of America. So you're teaching kids to look through a different lens at what's happening in America. And that is where the Marxification part comes in.
And eventually, when she's done, if she's able to get her way, when she's done challenging books like This Book is Gay, she will move on to children's picture books, middle grade books, and books like Something More. Another donation was Little Thieves by Margaret Owen, which is one of my personal favorite books of all time. For this, I have to bring up Brucey Boy again. Bruce Friedman from Clay County, Florida. Here's his challenge from the book Before I Let Go, in where he admits that the book itself does not contain any material that violates Florida obscenity laws, which would mean that it is, in fact, considered to be porn, even though the law is very vaguely written and the Bible, I could make an argument, falls under the Florida obscenity law. Laws shouldn't be written vague like that. Who does that help? This book does not violate Florida obscenity law. He admits this, and he lists reasons which he objects to this book, and the reasons are also things that are in Little Thieves, so let's take a look. Parental neglect, emotional abuse, something he dubs gender chaos, whatever the fuck that means, and asexuality, which is an umbrella term that describes someone who experiences little to no sexual attraction to others or has a low or absent interest in sexual activity. So depicting things like parental neglect, emotional abuse, kids experiencing these things, processing through these things, and asexuality, which even Bruce has to admit, like, you can't call discussions on asexuality something that violates Florida obscenity law. Nonetheless, Bruce sees this as inappropriate, which is just goes to show how incredibly subjective inappropriate is. But he thinks these things are inappropriate for children, full stop, and therefore he challenges and attempts to ban books that contain these things like Before I Let Go, and therefore I know that he would also challenge and try to ban Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. Blood at the Root by Ladarian Williams is another title I donated to a high school. I believe that this will absolutely be challenged in the upcoming years for the same reasons that Tiffany D. Jackson's books get banned and challenged, but again, there's so many directions I could take this for why I think different people who are Moms for Liberty affiliated will try to challenge and get this banned. Bruce did challenge in Clay County, Florida, Tiffany D. Jackson's books like Monday's Not Coming, which does depict parental abuse. And here in my own county, which my resident county book banner, Julie Gebhardt's, is friends with Bruce Friedman of Clay County, Florida.
A friend of mine has been battling in Clay County. He reads more books than anyone I know in order to fight and get pornographic books out of schools. His name is Bruce Friedman, No Left Turn in Education. You can find him pretty easily.
My resident county book banner also hates depictions of parental abuse and thinks that depicting something that many children go through is inappropriate for children. One of the reasons that my resident county book banner objects to Identical by Ellen Hopkins and just recently tried to get that ban from the high schools here in Hillsborough County, Florida. We had a meeting just this past May. Thankfully, the board did agree to keep the book in schools, but one of the reasons she objected, and she did bring this up at the meeting, was because in the end, the parent who's doing the abuse does not go to prison for the abuse.
The father in this book is presented as a victim at the end of the book. He goes to get therapy, and that's it. Where's the justice, and what are we teaching the girls who read this book?
Just FYI, the father is not presented as a victim. He does not go to prison. He is put in therapy. It's not even like a consolation prize. It's just like, this is what happened. He's now in therapy. It's not like, it's not presented as like, this is the gold standard, this is the best case scenario. It's just not an accurate depiction of how that book ended at all. It's very manipulative to present the information the way that this bitch right here just did. And the reason why Ellen Hopkins chose to write it this way is because she was writing about real experiences that many of her friends had gone through, and often abusers who abuse their own children do not end up in prison. And the children involved often have complicated feelings on that, and that is true to life, and Ellen Hopkins wrote what is true to life. It has been shown over the almost 20 years that this has been on shelves to be incredibly helpful for teens to process that, because so many unfortunately experience that. But Julie would like a more idealistic ending, and therefore one of her main complaints is this, and she would also try to get, assumedly, books with similar things in them off the shelves. I guess she just doesn't want books that have nuanced depictions of the realities of abuse, so that kids who don't have that idealistic ending for their outcome don't feel like their life is worthless. That doesn't matter. That's not something that matters to Julie Gebhardt's. Well, Blood at the Root ends in a similar way, where the parent does not deal with the consequences of the abuse, and for this reason, I can only assume that this would make it onto Julie's list of things I'll eventually challenge when I get all of these Ellen Hopkins books off the shelves too. The one on the bottom of the stack was Who Da F Cares by Huda Fahmy. Another book that was challenged is Who Da F Cares by Huda Fahmy, which is the first book in the graphic novel, slightly autobiographical series by Huda Fahmy. Sorry, I guess I got confused here. What I'm saying is that the book that I donated is Who Da F Cares, which is one in the series of books by Huda Fahmy that are semi-autobiographical, and one of the books that was challenged by Bruce Friedman in Clay County, Florida was the first book in that series, Who Da F Are You? Sorry for the confusion there. Which was challenged here in Florida already by, you guessed it, Bruce Friedman of Clay County, Florida. And now I don't have the challenge form for this book, but I do have one for another Muslim author he targeted in a challenge. So if I had to guess, he challenged this book because he's Islamophobic, because I have seen him be Islamophobic. I did include one of the books in this series, which is such a good series. In the books that I donated, I had received a copy from Penguin and I had already read it, so I decided to donate the brand new copy, and I can assume that eventually that will get challenged and banned somewhere too. Because hey, Bruce already challenged the first book in that series, likely because he's an Islamophobe, so of course that's going to get challenged too. Have I made my point? No? Okay, then I'll give more examples, but this time with books for 5-year-olds, because Moms for Liberty and their affiliates challenge books for a wide variety of stupid reasons that can all be tied back to their personal beliefs, and most of it is religious nonsense. It's not actually them being worried about sexual content. It's not actually them being worried about children, protecting children. I mean, I've been standing next to them while they had an opportunity to protect children and they didn't do it. I didn't donate kids' books, but if I did, I could donate ones that have been challenged or banned already. So in Pinellas County, women affiliated with Moms for Liberty, including one who ran for Pinellas County School Board and lost her election, named Stacy Geyer, recently tried to ban this children's picture book called The Artivist, of which one parent wrote "White Lives Matter" on her challenge form. I wish that was a joke. It'd be hard to find the punchline, but it sure would be great if that wasn't a real thing that she wrote down on paper for the entire public to fucking see, and then pretended that it was about protecting children. This book right here about Penguins, Tango Makes Three, which my kid loves this picture book. This book about two penguins, which is a true story about these two penguins, who were two male penguins who raised a chick together in the New York City Zoo. This actual true story has caused millions of dollars in a lawsuit because Escambia County, Florida wants to remove it because they're homophobes. And so the publisher decided to sue for a First Amendment violation. And this has caused millions of dollars to be wasted on homophobia. Picture book about a real life story about two penguins. So that's great. But it's for the kids, right? This picture book called No David has a picture of a kid who's, he ran outside with no clothes on, which if you've ever had any toddler in your life or remember being a toddler, is like a common occurrence with toddlers. Well, apparently Moms for Liberty doesn't want that to be a reality because Moms for Liberty member Jennifer Pippin in Indian River County, Florida, hated this so much so that she defaced it with a Sharpie.
A prolific book challenger, Pippin heads the county's conservative parental rights group, Moms for Liberty. She knows the process well.
We need to remove these materials because they are prohibited per all the laws and statutes.
How many total number of books have you challenged yourself?
Myself here in Indian River County, 242.
Out of these, a couple of titles stand out. The literary classic In the Night Kitchen by Maurice Sendak, and a newer book, Unicorns Are the Worst, about a grumpy goblin. Both have illustrations of characters without clothes. Pippin challenged both books under a Florida education law which allows for the removal of a public school library book that depicts or describes sexual conduct. In her formal objection, Pippin said the images were pornographic, but in our interview, she walked back that claim. What's pornographic about them?
So they're not pornographic. They contain nudity.
But nudity alone is not harmful to minors. According to Florida law, the content would have to appeal to a prurient interest, be patently offensive, or without literary or artistic value. I keep going back to nudity that is harmful to children. And so a goblin's backside, on the face of it, to me, doesn't seem like it is harmful to children.
Absolutely. So again, you and I can agree on that, but some other parents may not agree.
Pippin told the district to remove the books or draw on clothing using permanent markers to cover up the nudity. So school librarians drew shorts, overalls, and shirts on the illustrations. To see these drawings, you think that genuinely could adversely affect a child who otherwise may not know what the backside of a goblin looks like or ever thought?
Sure. So if a child is possibly maybe being raped by an adult and, maybe the seeing the nudity in itself, maybe just not the backside, but seeing something nude could be detrimental to them.
Or let's talk about Rainbow Fish, which is another book that my kids love. Actually, I had a NICU baby who was my rainbow baby, and we had a Rainbow Fish decorated NICU room. And so, God forbid, my school district supply Rainbow Fish in the school libraries because somebody in my resident county book banner's comments believes that the Rainbow Fish is too socialist for children. Are you getting it? These people are fucking weird and stupid. They aren't about removing sexual content from books. They aren't about saving children, protecting children. Because when I point out that the same exact content in Identical by Ellen Hopkins is in Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers, a Christian romance novel, which is an adult book, by the way. When I point out that the same content exists and when I hold up pieces of paper showing that the language is exactly the same at my school board, my resident county book banner does not return to the same high school she challenged Identical at to challenge Redeeming Love, which is also on the same shelf.
He marveled at how she fit him flesh to flesh, molded for him. Don't, she said. Don't. Become part of you. I am part of you. Say my name. You want to please me? Say my name. You said you wouldn't say no to anything I asked of you, remember? I want you to say my name. Anything you said. Can't you keep your word? His calm left. Say it. Michael, she ground out. He cupped her face. Look at me. Say it again. Michael. Was he satisfied now? Keep on saying it. Everybody's uncomfortable, right? I'm so sorry. I got confused. That's from Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. Another book in Newsom's library that oddly wasn't challenged despite containing the exact... No, I have a point. I'm coming back.
You finish. You need to...
I am talking about the book.
Identical.
I am talking about Identical. I have Identical printed out. I am making the case that there's a double standard. I did read Identical. I read both books. Another book in Newsom's library that oddly wasn't challenged despite containing the exact same content as Identical. I read both. Both books contain child sexual assault, self-harm, and a girl being raped by her father. In fact, it's the same wording used in the rape scene. Assumedly, one was challenged and not the other because of the challenger's religious beliefs, and I'm supposed to stand here and accept that this blatant hypocrisy is somehow prioritizing my parental rights and education.
And these double standards prove who they actually are, because if it was about sex, they wouldn't hold blatant double standards. This isn't about porn. This isn't about graphic sexual content. This isn't about removing inappropriate books from schools, whatever personal vague definition you decide to give that and decide to enact upon everybody else. This is about control. And I will be fighting so they can't control which books are available in my district for my children. Because, by the way, my resident county book banner doesn't even have kids in the school district. Parents have every opportunity to opt out. They can opt out of everything. I can't even send my kid into the school with a cough drop that I buy on my own money. My kid cannot keep a cough drop in their backpack because the school rule is that I have to sign a waiver for that. There are opt-in and opt-out forms for everything. It is extremely easy for you to restrict your own children to only reading certain books. This was just explained at my school board by media specialists of how this works, how they maintain that if you send in an email to your media specialist and say, I don't want my kid to have this book, it will be put in their media center profile. They can't check it out.
We have yet to put a system in place in Hillsborough County that gives parents their ability to say a book cannot be checked out by their child. And I think it's important that we have those checks and balances within our system, because I think it is up to the parents to make the decisions on what their children do and do not read. And because of the fact that we as a school district are providing opportunities to minor children, we need to have some kind of system in which they can do that.
Is there a physical list that the librarian keeps? Does that go into a computer system where when the student checks it out with their number, what is the process if a parent has identified books they don't want their child to check out? What does that look like?
So there are automated ways that the media specialists can use to make notes within the student's account on what that is specifically. It isn't like a printout or something that would physically be visible, because also that is like a student record, right, and so wouldn't be available to just anyone that was sitting at the circulation desk, because that would be private student information that a parent has communicated about a student. But there is the option inside our circulation system that the media specialist can make a note on the student's account specific for that.
Because they have to put in their student number that's all attached to things. That's how we keep track and record of what books come in and come out. So they are notations. It does come up, whether it was a substitute teacher, when they go to check out that book, the student's file will come up. There are notes, and it does highlight whether or not there is a parent request not for the student to have access to that book.
That is correct.
Okay. That's all I wanted to clarify. Thank you so much.
And I support your right to do that if you even have public schools kids. I support your right to take your kid out of the library entirely if it's so important to you. You have parental rights. Exercise them. Your parental rights do not extend to my children. That is a violation of my rights. It does not make sense for you to show up at my kid's school board where you do not have kids and demand that you decide what is right for my kids. That's gross and creepy. Why are you so obsessed with my kids? They can take their dimes, they can take their personal beliefs, and Moms for Liberty can go fuck off. And if you side with them, so can you. And while y'all do that, I will make sure that underserved libraries get copies of books so that all kids can have equal access. And hopefully that improves our abysmal literacy rate, because book challengers sure as fuck are not doing anything about that either. To end this on a more positive note, someone was so kind to donate some money to me after I posted about donating books. I didn't ask, they just did it. So I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you and to tell you where I'm putting that donation. The donator was Little Miss Reads a Lot 21. I have a receipt here. I went ahead and did this before I filmed this video. So I went ahead and bought one book that I already read, which is up here actually. It's The Odds by Lindsay Puckett, which is about a girl who is someone who actually deals with something I have dealt with since I was around her age, which is chronic migraines. So I really liked this book, and I did check it out in the Hillsborough County Public Schools Library Media Center, and there is only one copy in the entire district. One copy. So I purchased that. And yes, by the way, this would also get challenged, especially by Bruce Friedman. He challenged The Last Quintista for having a side character that has two moms, which this middle grade book, The Odds, also has a side character that has two moms as well. So I have purchased that, as well as Ribbon Skirt by Cameron Mukwa, which is a graphic novel by an Indigenous author that we only have, again, one copy in all of Hillsborough County Schools District. That's so many kids missing out, so many schools missing out. And like graphic novels, so I actually went to my kids, since I do book stuff as a job, I went to my kids, my 8-year-old's class for career day, and I got to talk about my job in publishing. The teacher says I was her favorite all day. Yay. Finally, I get to be teacher's pet at 30 years old. And those kids are so hungry to read and to talk about books. They asked me, how many books do you read? Have you ever read this? Have you ever read that? Have you ever read this? One kid was like, do you read nonfiction about whales? And I was like, no, but I would. How cute is it that like some little boy, his favorite book is like nonfiction about whales? That was such a great experience listening to these kids. One girl, her favorite series is The Babysitters Club, which I'm like, oh my gosh, that's still going. But a lot of kids are reading graphic novels right now. A lot of them were like, do you read Dogman? Do you read Dogman? They all love Dogman and Cat Kid. So I made sure to get a graphic novel because that is like the hot dish right now with the kids. One little girl pulled me aside after I spoke and she was like, you have to see this joke inside this Dogman book I'm reading. And so she like literally turned to the page and she's like, look at this joke, and made me read it out loud. So yay, graphic novels, getting the kids to read. So I did get one, and then I also picked up, I very intentionally decided to look up whether or not we had any copies of Linda Combs' Colonization and the Wampanoag Story, because there's this group in Texas, this group that was started by two moms in Texas who basically forced their county commissioners to make their library system only play by the rules of these two moms. They had somebody challenge this book because, you know, they're racist and it's a nonfiction book, and they moved it to fiction. It's a nonfiction book about what actually happened to Native Americans. So that's pretty disgusting to do. I don't know how you sleep at night. So because of that, I've been reading the book myself, and I wanted to make sure that Hillsborough County had copies. And I looked it up, and we only have 2 copies in the whole of Hillsborough County. So those are the 3 that I ordered. I just wanted you to know and like know what I picked and why, and you know for certain that I did that. So there's the receipt. And I also made sure to use bookshop.org instead of Amazon, because bookshop.org does donate to indie bookstores, and the bookstore I choose to have them donate to is Black English, which is a bookstore in my community that is Black owned. And when it opened, and I still haven't done a video on this because I'm still mad, the comments that I saw, somebody sent me, hey, there was a post about Black English in like this Tampa Facebook group, and the disgusting comments that people were leaving that were so racist, I was disgusted. So I've tried to go out of my way to support Black English. And Black English is also opened by, or run by, a former Hillsborough County Public Schools teacher who I think still substitute teaches. I don't remember. I'd have to go talk to her again. I tried to go out of my way to make sure that I bought the books and supported the bookstores and supported like every facet that Moms for Liberty would not fucking do and in fact would work against. I was very intentional about that, to be like the ultimate fuck you, and try to do like the most good with what I had resources to do. So thank you again to the authors and publishers who sent me copies of your books, as well as Little Miss Reads a Lot 21 for helping me get lesser supplied books into schools, especially ones that let us say fuck you to Moms for Liberty. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Comments and questions down below, and if you've made it this far in the video, leave an emoji that you dedicate to Moms for Liberty down below. Mine is this. Always and forever. Eat it. All right, see you next time. Bye. Okay, before I go, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons, and those are Alexander, Ashley H, Astra, Brittany Bobitney, Call Me Kodiak, Cami, Choco's Homesick for Taiwan, Chris the Horror Therapist, DJ Rocktopus, Ellie, Emerald Dodge, Aaron with 2 E's, Eric D, Jess, Joel White, John E, K, Kaleno K, Casey McKenzie, Kate W, Katie M, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lady Chips, Lauren K, Lemon Jelly, Lex, Lily B, Matteraptor, Max B, Melissa, Minby, Mixer Boneless, Alice, Peggy Luhu, Rain, Reese, SJ, Samar, Scarlett, SMK, Steph B, 3 Raccoons in a Trench Coat, Urchin Audrey, White Raven 13, and Zorvictia. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend. And I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Potato Starch Marxist patrons, and those are Alejandra, Alicia Needs a Nap, Alistair, Althea, Amanda D, Andy, Angelica, Artie the Ninth, Ava, Ballads and Bookends, Beck, Bly Lavender, Bookish by Jenna, Bookish Rabbit, Book Noodle, Bree Caitlin, Kate B, Caitlin P, Carlin, Carly, Casper, Kate W, Catherine, Kathy, Claire Online, Cole, Colleen, Corwin, Cosmic, Darius, Danielle, Darren, Desiree Michelle, Dilf Enthusiast, Dorothea is not like other girls, Drive-By Thinker, Ebby, Emily A, Emma, Fiona, Francis, Gadarn, Halia Artisan, Hannah C, Harpy Kuro, Helen P, Harissing, H. Rissing. Oh my god, you're gonna have to tell me how to say that. I'm so sorry. JM Tennant, Jay is on Olympus, Jelly V, Jello Salad, Jen Michelle, Gender Queer, Jenny G, Jessis Sue, Jill, Jojo Bookish, Juicy Wizard, Kathleen, Catherine, Katie L, Katrina, Kaylee,
Kayala, Kendra, KMTB, Laughing Cat Dog, Laura is Angry, Lauren G, Lazarus Ray, Library of Scars, Lindsay, Lisa, Lisa L, LP, Luciri, Lustful Octopus, MK Martin, Maddie, Madison, Man-Eating Plant, Megan, Malara, Mentally Unwell, May, Mima Who, Molly, Myth Lesbian, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Paige P, Pandemonium, Paul, Penelope, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Plague Carrier, Pandemonium, Queen Cereal, Rachel B, Reba, Rebecca, Rebecca R, Rhea S, Ronnie, Rosie Thorns, Rowan, Sikoria, Saintbringer, Sakialume, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Sarah Z, Shamed, Shannon, Sean, Sophie, Stardust, T. Delegati, Talia, That Nerdy Mystic, This Is Not a Trap, what a name, Tiana, Too Thick to Work Today, Trash Can Teddy, Triple M, Tito Phoenix, Unicorn Jenny, Waves, Wobbs, Writer A. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend.